We're a little clunky on the techno side today. Every time we start the service out here, we discover things we didn't know we needed to figure out. So anyway, thank you for your patience on that. And if anything wonky happens this morning with the technology, it's not Trudy's fault. So anyway, we're going to have a bunch of pictures scrolling through here today, just capturing our trip. I want to invite the team up who went down with us on this trip, and they're going to come and share a little bit from their experience. As they come up, just kind of line up here on the front. That'd be good, so people can still see the stuff. Sort of the layout of our trip. We left early Sunday morning 1 week ago and arrived about noon down in Tijuana. Had some lunch, and then every day kind of went like this, except for a couple days that we took a field trip or two. We'd wake up early, 7:30 for breakfast, and then once we started going from about 8 o'clock or 8:30 until about 1:30 every day, we worked our butts off. And I'm not kidding, man. I mean, this team, they are rock stars. Their stamina was unbelievable, knocking out so many different projects, all to make this place better, more beautiful. That was a lot of our work, was doing some repair work to make things, bring them back up to speed. Our punch list was long every day, and we nailed it every day. We had to get creative all the time, and luckily we had Mike, who is a contractor and knows how to get MacGyver-ish on some challenging things. But we nailed it and did some other really cool things along the way, which we'll talk about. We took a breather Sunday morning and went to see the wall and just look around a little. Went to a church down there that's kind of like a crosswalk. I don't know what's happening there with that. It's just my battery? Okay, well, I'm not going to do anything about that. All right, so when they figure that out, I'll get there. This church acts as a refugee center for Haitian immigrants who've made their way to this space in hopes to find themselves in the United States, but probably won't. And so they're trying to figure out their alternatives that they have before them now. And we'll talk more about the wall experience. I'm sure one of these will do that. We would eat dinner sometime around 6:30, head back to where we camped out in one of their buildings, where we stayed most of the time. And for the next hour or so, we would debrief with each other. I made these guys, whether they liked it or not, to journal every day. What they did, and talk about what they were experiencing, any God moment types of things. And then we had rich discussion about it, and it was awesome. I mean, the kinds of things that bubbled up with these guys was just beautiful. And you're going to hear some of that today, which is good. And I was right in there with them on all of that stuff. We did take one day, Friday, to go to Bufadora. Is that right? La Bufadora, all right, which was a long drive to go see some water shoot up in the air, and then a long drive back. So it was pretty cool, but I don't know if it was worth it. Yeah, yeah, I ate some risky clams, yeah. So it was a great time, but we also got a ton done and represented you well, and did well by them as well. So anyway, I want to just give them the opportunity to share very little, if that's what they want to share, or up to a few minutes. Just some of their take-home things about what was really powerful for them in this experience. So Larry, since you're way over here, you go ahead and start. When you're done, just pass it along.
It's great to see the ladies being loved and supported by everybody. One thing that kind of stood out to me is painting in the bathroom stalls, and we heard one of the toddlers outside just making a toddler noise, going like a noise it just learned. And it just told me that the baby felt love, that it could do that. And the mothers were giving a lot of love to their children, and I think that's one thing, that the love that the women are feeling and feeling good about themselves is being also transferred to their children, and I think it's just a good thing for them. We did a lot of work. There's a lot of poverty down there. It's just a contrast. Me and Moise, he brought me back to catch my flight, and there's so much poverty on the Tijuana side. And just a few miles later, you're in America, the houses all look alike. It's just such a contrast. But if you can go down there, there's a lot to there's always a lot to do down there, and it's just, it's great to support these ladies and their children.
Awesome.
That's it.
And for those of you who don't know what Deborah's House is, this is more than a shelter for victims of domestic violence. It's really a center where a handful of women, up to 6 at a time with their kids, are in about a 6 or 9 month program where it's a comprehensive healing process where their physical issues are dealt with. They get counseling for their emotional issues, as do their children. They get some job training stuff so that when they graduate out, they're in a safe place where they're able to sustain themselves and move forward with their lives. It's an incredible ministry that we get to be a part of with that. So, Bruno.
Good morning. Well, that was my first time, and learned a lot. It's an unbelievable experience. I really invite you to go and work there. It's like Larry said, the poverty there is, you can definitely see it, and it's amazing how you learn about life just pulling weeds all week. But it's a great Deborah's House. You can feel God's had hands on it, and the love that's out of this house is unbelievable. It's kind of a little piece of paradise in this region, and doing what we do down there really helps the leaders to take care of the main thing, is to take care of the women and children that are there. And it's great to offer the support there. And it's more than that also. It's all the connection with Ray, with connection with Moise and Dolores, and wonderful people there. They do amazing work, and really I'm glad that we represented Crosswalk, and it's awesome that Crosswalk is involved with them. So I encourage you to go there. Thanks.
Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm Mike. Speak to the MacGyver thing. I guess that was like the question-answer guy, so to speak. But I learned a lot from that on this trip. There's not so much maintenance on the buildings and maintenance doing there. I had to do a lot of self-maintenance on this trip as well for my own mindset. That just because I had the knowledge didn't mean I had to be on every project. Letting loose and letting people go on the projects themselves was taxing on myself because I wanted to be involved in everything. So a lot of personal growth on this trip for myself, as well as personal growth on the facility. Learning to do that gave me some time to actually work with others that I didn't get to work with on the last trip. Me and Pam kind of worked together on the bathroom, and man, what an improvement. Just a simple paint and a simple door putting up is just, it wasn't so simple though.
Yeah.
MacGyver had to come in here and there. There'll be some pictures of that. But it's just you work with what you have. They have very little to work with. They have tools, but they're not your tools. They have items, but their Home Depots are not like ours where you can just go in and get anything. Their Home Depots are very different. They're very limited. So you have to really just kind of build as you can. The other thing that I kind of realized too on this trip is that I don't speak any Spanish, very little, poquito. That's about as much as that and taco and burrito and the rest of it. But I just learned that a smile and a hug to these children express love, period. That's that right there, connected with a lot of them. Diego was one of the little kids that kind of gravitated toward me this time. Kevin was last time, and this little kid Diego, he kept giving me high fives, and he would high five and give me the knuckle. Well, then I taught him the third one, so it was high five, knuckle, and then a and he looked at me and went, like, what was that? So then at the end of the trip, he started getting it, and he started doing it. So and he gave me a big old hug, and so we kind of learned, it's just another connection. I had a little surprise at the end. I got to meet Kevin again. So for those of you that remember the last trip, Kevin was my right-hand man in the last trip. Made a good connection with him. And Moises come down and said, "Oh, somebody here that needs you up top." So I came in the corner. As soon as I saw him, we just ran to each other and gave big old hugs. So it was a really good connection. Full circle completion to see this child mature, grow. He's put on some weight. He's got some height. He's doing good. He's in school. Through translation, I got to hear his story that he's going to school. He's doing good. He helps out a lot with his little brother, with his mom. She has a job, I believe, if I heard right.
Yep.
So she's doing really good. So there's a lot of hope to see that what we're doing is a great thing, because here's a successful story. She's went through the program. She's doing well. She's on her own, not dependent on anything. She's doing her own thing. And so that right there just made me feel really good to see that, that full completion. So, but that was a nice surprise. It made me feel really warm to know that I'm doing what I should be doing. So, and that's to spread the joy and the love and the word of God and be there, just to be there for them, and with no reward, no nothing out of it, but just the sense of knowing that we did the right thing. So, thank you.
Hi, good morning. I think for me, this is my second trip to Deborah's house, and I think for me, there were two things. Difference between last time and this time was just how the women interacted with their children. The first time I was there, it was more one mother taking care of all the children while the other moms did their own thing. There was not a lot of interaction between the moms and their children. This time there was singing and laughter and coloring with their kids and being affectionate with their kids, which like I said, we didn't see that the last time. So it was good to see that growth. I think the other big thing for me was the whole theme for the trip for me was finding the hidden beauty. One of Pete's projects was we had this big hillside that was all weeded, and instead of tackling the whole area, we made a walking path for the moms and their kids to take in the either in the morning or the afternoon. And we were finding hidden pockets of succulents and trees and flowers that were totally hidden in all the weeds. So everywhere I went on this trip, I was looking for and seeing that hidden beauty.
Hi, good morning. My name's Pam. This was my third trip in 15 months. I'm going to get emotional because I feel like it's such a worthy mission, and we're doing such good work down there on so many levels. And to speak to what everybody else said, it was so nice to see the relationships between the mothers and the kids and the growth down there. What we do really makes an impact, and though I speak very little Spanish, love is a universal language, and the sheer appreciation and gratitude in their faces just speaks volumes to what we're doing. They appreciate it so very much. The little things that we take for granted mean the world to them. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed a shower this morning, and I didn't have to worry about the hot water turning off in the middle of me rinsing my hair. I mean, the smallest things that they don't enjoy that, so they don't have that opportunity. So it's really a growth experience for me when I go down there, because it really makes me check myself and what I take for granted every day that they just don't have.
Hi, I'm Mary. One of my gifts was a cold. And I think the last cold I had was the last time I went to Tijuana. So I'm saying that maybe means my defenses are down when I'm there. So this is my third trip. And the biggest thing I think I came away with was during our reflections every night, we did a summary on the last night, and I came away with not thinking that what I think can be done to make things better, well, if they only did it this way, or if they only went out and weeded 1 hour a day, it wouldn't look like that. And, realizing that they have far more urgent and important matters to be taken care of while they're there. So that's how we support them, by doing all the other things that need to be done so they don't have to worry about it. On our last morning, we walked in for breakfast, and they had made a big sign, which I'm sure, oh, there we are. And each one of the little kids, you know, drew those pictures for us, and it was really, really special. Getting to know the people better, your crosswalkers, it's just absolutely amazing. The amount of laughing and silliness that we shared in is incredible. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to make the trip. I know it, you know, costs money. You got to take time off work if you're working, and all that. But you will never ever regret going down there and experiencing what we experienced. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Diane. This was my second trip down. And you just come away with such a feeling of awe of everything they are accomplishing and how they're growing. But for myself, I was real surprised this time because I had a very surprising thing happen to me. I spent a lot of time in their sewing room, folding, putting up materials, trying to sort them so they'd be able to easily find what they needed. And my mom had Alzheimer's before she died, and probably the last at least 5 years of her life, she was a totally different person, not nearly the loving person she had been as I grew up. She totally changed, and those were the memories I'd had on top left of her. But she used to do a lot of sewing. We used to do a lot of sewing together, and just folding the material and sorting it started bringing back those memories for me. So I now have happier memories, so it's very much a blessing, which totally surprised me, something like that happening for me down there. Not only being a blessing to them, but having it touch my life in such a way.
And my name is Ed, and this was my first trip. As Pete said, we took a lot of notes, and so I have a bunch here. We all wrote down what we thought each day. I really enjoyed the fellowship. Well, nice you could join us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm glad I'm not the last one. I'll give you an opportunity. This is my person that kept me going and kept me so I didn't fall, so I'm glad she's here anyway. But anyway, this was a very emotional trip. Got around each job. Everybody did an outstanding job. I tried to be the cheerleader and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And sometimes I felt like Roger Dangerfield got no respect, but it was all in love. And so these crosswalkers really are something special. Pete is something special. This church is something special at what it does. I've been here a year. I enjoy every moment of it. I was very surprised about the kids, how happy they were under the circumstances. The wall was very touching. Being I was a veteran, there was some not so good language on the wall. And to visualize the wall and then the in between and then the other wall. It's definitely a memory that I'll never forget. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I encourage anybody to go into it. But these crosswalkers are something special. We laughed, we cried, we were down to earth with each other, and I believe overall we made Deborah a better place for these people. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, I enjoyed this trip as I have the last two. This was my third trip, and the one thing I really enjoyed the most is just spending time with crosswalkers and just getting to know them in a deeper level. You know, we see each other here every week, but just being with them, living with them, you know, being with them 24/7 just brings us really close. What I realized in this trip was that I was really caught up in a lot of the stress in my everyday life here, and work and just kids and everything. And going there just gave me time to really see the things that were taking over in my relationship with God, and that I needed to make more time to be in prayer and meditation and reading and just get closer to Him again because I'd been drifting. That's really what I brought from this. It's very important to keep our relationship good with God and not let other things take first place in our hearts. And I really hope that more of you can join us next time. It is a wonderful time together, and to be able to beautify Deborah's house it's a good feeling. So I hope you can join us.
Yeah, let's give him a hand. Grab a seat. Switched on. All right, we'll just go to this one. I don't know what's going on with that. Technical stuff. So every night we'd get together, and the major projects we did a ton of landscaping, a lot of weeding, beautifying the property. We not remodeled, but we did a facelift on a toilet and sink area with 4 toilets, right? 5 toilets and 4 sinks or something like that. Was it 5 sinks too? I don't know. I was never in there. So, all right. Yeah, and just painted it, cleaned it up, put new doors on there. The ones that were on there were kind of makeshift and really beat up after years of a lot of use. We did a whole range of tiny projects that didn't require a lot. Ed was our chief screwer-inner of light bulbs, and that was his first task, was to screw in 3 light bulbs. It only took 2 crosswalkers to screw in 3 light bulbs. So still didn't work, but that's okay. We got the light bulbs in there. Then we got it to work because we figured out some things on that. Switch plate covers, small things that most of us we would just immediately knock out. But down there, I think to what one of the team members said, we do these kinds of things so that the staff there doesn't have to waste their time doing it, and they can attend to the much more important things and tending to the women and the children. And that conversation came up. Bruno was brutally honest in his questions. After 2 days of pulling weeds that we know are going to grow back, the next year, he's like, "What are we doing? How is this helping anything?" Which is a very honest question. Here's how it helps. That wasn't a very good French accent. I'll try to do better next time, but think that in a French accent. Here's what it does. It speaks value into the women and the children. It says to the women and the children, you are deserving of a beautiful space, that you are beautiful people, and we see it in you, even if you're struggling because of what you've been through, to see it yourself. And so when we made the nature path, which honestly it was kind of a little bit of a way to get out of a whole lot more work because the field was huge. The weeds were this high, and they had stickery things on them all over the place. And if all we had to do was make a 5-foot trail, that seemed a lot easier. And I was the one in front to figure out the path, and that was such an amazing experience. Because you'd be trucking along and you're just thinking, we're just going to be going through weeds, and all of a sudden, here's this gorgeous, agave plant, and here's this gorgeous flowering bush. What's that doing there? And a field of ice plants. I mean, massive. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's like a 60 by 40 foot patch of just gorgeous green ice plants. Amazing. So that was part of what we were experiencing. And I got the privilege to walk the women down with our missionary down there through the first time. And they got it. And before they even started down, they weren't even on the path yet, and they were talking about how beautiful the property looked. And the value that gave them was incredible. And they got a quarter of the way down, and they saw this flowering bush and the ice plant patch, and they started to cry. And we got down toward the bottom of the hill, and there are these, a couple different patches of agave and some other stuff down there. I don't know what they are, but anyway, we're down there, and I reflected back for them some of the things that the team was saying about how this is a good metaphor for our lives, that there are beautiful things in us that are hidden by weeds. And we don't even know they're there until we start to do a little bit of work to clean those things out. And then we discover that there's incredible beauty there all along. And when I shared that and it was translated, this one woman in particular who Delirious, our missionary down there, told me really doesn't show much emotion at all. She just flat out broke down, like could not walk anymore. And she's bawling in Delirious's arms. And Delirious is like, what's going on? And she said, that's me. That's my story. And so this little, wasteful exercise of just pulling weeds and knocking down a path communicates great beauty to the people that we're trying to reach. And beauty inspires. And so we did that, and we also did this massive sewing room project, which we completely straightened it up and organized. I didn't have anything to do with that either, which is a good thing because I would have just screwed it up. But just extraordinary. So we had that going on, and our experience at the wall was very peculiar. It messed with every one of us, and we all talked about it that night and going forward. One of the things that was shocking, I guess, to us is if you look at what a lot of news feeds are giving you, it looks like there's just people hanging on the wall, sitting on the top, kind of mocking the U.S., and it just looks like utter mayhem on TV. When we were actually there, it was a beautiful sunny day on the Pacific coast, and there were maybe 12 tourists apart from us who were just milling around, reading the stuff on the wall, not this violent, crazy scene that it's portrayed to be. And so that, for one, was eye-opening for the team. It was like, maybe what we see isn't the real story about what's going on. Two other disturbing things. One disturbing thing was there was a group that was, I guess, from Homeland Security, and they were touring. And so their SUVs rolled up, and, I'm standing on the wall just reading something, kind of focused on that, not paying any attention. And all of a sudden, this military dude, just, gets right on the other side of the wall and says, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, And we had a pleasant enough conversation. I said, well, I'm U.S., and we're just here to do some service work. But some of the people who were in that car, they made some assumptions about us. And one of the first assumptions that they made about us was that we surely were not U.S. citizens, because what would we be doing over there? So they asked in German if we knew how to speak English. And so we shot back to them in Russian that, no, we don't know it. No, we didn't do that. Just kidding. No, we let them know we were U.S. citizens, and Mike had an interesting exchange with them about, what am I doing? This is working now? Oh, okay, good. Well, how about that? Thank you. I ignore you all the time, Jason. Just get used to that. So, anyway, Mike had an extended conversation with him, and first a couple of the guys were like, kind of a little bit mouthy with attitude, like, what would anybody want to do over there? Nobody's clamoring to get over to Mexico, kind of a thing. And then Mike just simply explained, well, we're here to help this program called Deborah's House and helping women escape from domestic violence, have a new start in life and their kids, and it's this beautiful thing. The guys shut up. Their wives said, wow, that's a really beautiful, powerful thing. So that was a kind of a sobering moment for us, just to reflect on the attitudes that are on both sides of this fence. The most disturbing piece for us, I think, by far, was if you looked at it from the Pacific side, kind of looking inland, you saw an inverted American flag, upside-down American flag. And the stars were not stars, but they were upside-down crosses. And we're like, huh, what's that about? And so we all snapped our pictures, and then we walked up to it to look at it, and we got on the other side of it and looked back the other way and recognized what we were seeing. And on the other side of the flag, if you will, were the names of military that served in the U.S. military for us, who once their service was ended were deported. And some of the service members who were deported, the only way they got back into the United States was when they died. And that messed with us. We had a lot of choice words, at least in our hearts, about what is going on here. And then we had an opportunity to hear from Ray Skellinger, his thing with our denomination and our mission component of our broader network is to really get his brain around the whole immigration thing. And he let us know this is not a binary thing about a wall or not a wall or whatever, but you have such a multifaceted, complex system of things that are contributing to the problem that we now have, which is at an unprecedented level now, more than it has been in many years. But it's not one thing. It's not one policy. It is a whole lot of mess working together to create what we have now, including some very, very disturbing things about our own U.S. policy and the way that we think about the foreigner. And that's deeply troubling. So we all want legal immigration. But what if all the legal means have been ripped away? So there's not really a possibility of legal immigration. And what do you do if our own U.S. corporations, this is legit stuff, what if our own U.S. corporations are advertising overseas in Africa, South America, and Central America saying, we will hire you if you can get over here? What do we do with that? What do we do if those same corporations, once undocumented immigrants make their way to their corporations and they hire them then? Now, what do you do when you find out that, a couple months into their employment, when it comes time for payday, the corporation calls ICE on their own employees so they don't have to pay them, knowing that there's 100 more people ready to take their place? Now, that's just one little eye-opening thing that's messed with us, that's made us want to be more curious about what is the complexity here. So we're going to invite Ray here in September and have him speak to us, because this guy, his goal is to understand the comprehensive nature of our immigration problem and see it for what it is, even if we don't like what we see. And so I encourage you to do your homework, do your study. Don't settle for one source for your news, but to look at it more deeply. And I want to push you further. This is not a Republican or Democrat thing, a conservative or liberal thing. This is a Jesus thing. This is a Jesus thing. The Bible is ultra clear. It couldn't be more clear about how we are to treat everybody, but specifically in the Bible, in the earliest days, you treat the foreigner with respect, period. Some of the heroes of our Bible were those who treated the foreigner with respect, and they were blessed by it. So this is clearly a part of who we are, and the reason why that was such a key issue in the Bible is because the people of Israel themselves were once the foreigner. And God is saying to them, remember, you weren't always on top, and remember what it's like to be treated with indignity. So that alone, this Jesus mandate to think on a different plane should compel us to have a more curious mind, to try to understand what's going on. Kind of my takeaway in this whole process, because I was in there with the team and thinking things through and getting messed with the same way, is that we are in the middle of a process. Deborah's House is in an ongoing process of maintenance and getting it up to snuff, only to have it get run down in another 5 years, to get rebuffed up again and all this. That's just the way it's going to be. Next year there's going to be more weeds to pull if you love being outside doing weeds. We've got good news for you. We know exactly where to put you. Delirious in her role as things are shifting in, I think, healthy ways, but she's in process trying to figure out, how do I navigate my role with Deborah's House? When we think about the immigration stuff, what does that look like, and how do we understand that? It's all a process. And then to a person, we all recognize we are all in process, that there are parts of us that we've got pretty well figured out, and for now, it's going all right. But other parts of us, deep weeds, deep weeds. And it's encouragement to just say, okay, deep weeds, hands to pull those weeds. A God who wants to see those weeds pulled. Knowing that it all is building towards something that is really beautiful and really good. On our last day together, I shared a passage. I won't share the whole thing now just because of time. But I shared what's known as the Hall of Fame of Faith. It's a chapter in the book of Hebrews. And the writer chronicles for the whole chapter all these great names of the faith. Most of them you would readily know if you spent much time in church. Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph, Noah, many, many others. And the whole point of what the writer was saying to the people was this. Those people who went before us, who ultimately are responsible for you and I being able to enjoy faith today, they did their thing not seeing the final result. They just had faith that what they were doing was a part of something bigger than themselves that was going to make things better, more beautiful, more whole. And so they kept at it. They saw it as in a distant future. And so he ends his passage of the Hall of Fame and he says, therefore, let us fix our eyes upon Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And let us cast aside those things that get in the way and keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, who, for the sake of the cross,